I tell this story in my book, Big Love, about maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I was living in Panama. And for years and years before that, I would drink a lot of green tea. And I'd make my cup of tea. And if you're familiar with green tea, it's a very fickle tea. You can only steep it for 3 minutes max. And I like to steep mine for about 2 minutes. And if you go beyond 3 minutes, it starts to get really bitter and really nasty tasting. So for years, I would make a cup of green tea, put the tea bag in, I'd pour the water over it, and I'd leave the room. I'd look at the clock and I'd leave the room or do whatever I was doing. And then I'd come sprinting back into the kitchen 5 or 6 or 7 minutes later, knowing that my tea was going to taste like crap. And probably 70, 75% of the time, I'd be stuck with a really bad cup of tea. And whether it was from laziness or not wanting to waste a tea bag, I would drink it. So 3/4 of the time, I'm drinking a really bad cup of green tea in my life. And then this one day, I had an epiphany. It took me years to get to this point, and it's a really obvious epiphany, but it was like, just set a timer, dude. What are you doing? Why are you doing this over and over? And my phone is always around somewhere anyway. So the light bulb went off. I finally made the choice to set a timer. I set my timer for 1 minute, 45 seconds. And day after day, I would have a perfect cup of green tea. I'd pour the water, set the timer, the ducks would quack, take out the tea bag, drink a perfect cup of tea, green tea, day after day, until it was built into the ritual, the timer. And even today, I don't drink as much green tea, but when I do it with the timer, and I have a perfect cup of green tea. So hold on to the green tea story for a second. And I want to share with you a story about my underwear, which is probably sounds weird and inappropriate. I was in Panama and I was working on Big Love, and I'm typing at the table and I'm shifting in my seat because my underwear are really uncomfortable. So I'm typing and I'm shifting and I'm typing and I'm pulling the underwear out of my crack and I'm typing and I'm getting angrier and I'm trying to work and I'm thinking, these are the most uncomfortable underwear ever. These underwear are awful. They're terrible. I hate them. And again, this was probably 2 hours of going back and forth between typing and shifting in my seat because of these uncomfortable underwear. And then the light bulb goes off and it says, because this light bulb speaks, take the underwear off your body now, right? Obviously. For 2 hours, I'm dealing with a situation that I don't in any way have to be dealing with. I take the underwear off my body. And because I tend toward drama, I was so angry. I brought out scissors and I like cut those underwear and threw them in the trash. And I went to my underwear drawer and I pulled out that pair and I pulled out that pair. There were like 2 or 3 pairs that I know are uncomfortable, that I keep putting on my body, and I keep going through my day having to take some part of my consciousness toward thinking about how uncomfortable my underwear are. And I threw those out too. So I bring up green tea and I bring up my underwear, and they seem really, dude, obviously just time your tea and don't wear uncomfortable underwear. But I would bet all the money I have that everyone watching this has at points in their lives, and maybe even right now, worn uncomfortable underwear and have continued to wear uncomfortable underwear. And what I felt deeply in those moments of awareness was that it's not something to shrug off. It's not just a silly thing. Because what I understood is that if I am feeding myself crappy cups of tea day after day and wearing uncomfortable underwear hour after hour, if I'm making those very basic choices in a way that reflects self-loathing, self-abuse, not taking care of myself, I am assuredly doing that in my life in areas where it matters more. And when you reflect on your life and when you reflect on the choices you're making, the most basic choices, I believe it is critical to look at how those choices are affecting you. Are you wearing uncomfortable underwear throughout your day, and why? Because it is impacting you. And the message that you're sending to yourself and the universe or God or the trees, whatever you believe in, the message you are sending is, I do not love myself enough to take care of myself in this most basic way. And that feels like a dire, heavy message because we're all doing it in so many ways, in the most basic ways. But the beauty of it is, the moment you recognize that you're doing it, you have the opportunity to make different choices for yourself in these most simple, basic ways. And you can trust that by doing so, you're creating energy within you to make choices that reflect self-love in ways where it matters more.